Hey, what's going on everyone? My name is Donovan, and today we're going to take a quick first look at the Samsung Galaxy J7 Star exclusive to T-Mobile, at least at the moment. And just kind of a quick heads up, this thing is right now $250, which puts it slightly above the price of the J3 Star, which if you're comparing this to the J3 Star, I would say without a doubt, definitely go with the J7 Star. You're going to pay an extra $3 a month, but trust me, it'll definitely be worth it. You're definitely going to want to go with the J7 Star over the J3 Star if you're choosing between those two. Now, I'm also going to mention a few things in comparison with the LG Stylo 4 from T-Mobile as well. The reason being that this phone is the exact same price. So they're both $10 a month or $250 if you want to pay for it outright. So I went ahead and paid for mine outright from T-Mobile, and you can see it's available here. I think I paid about $280 out the door once you factor in taxes and I think the activation fee or something like that, maybe a little bit more than that. So I'm going to do some comparisons with the LG Stylo 4, but this is just going to be a quick first look at the device. So first thing I want to mention here is the build quality. So we have a 5.5-inch 720p display that's 16:9 aspect ratio. So versus the LG Stylo 4, that has a 1080p display, so higher resolution, also a larger display with that a 6.2-inch display, and then it also has an 18:9 aspect ratio. So the LG Stylo 4 definitely has the more modern 2018 look, whereas this one definitely has the more kind of a throwback to like a 2016 or 2017 device here. In terms of the front of the device, you can see we have a 13 megapixel camera, so that is definitely one area where the J7 Star, if you're looking for a better selfie camera, if you're comparing this to the Stylo 4, that only has a 5 megapixel camera, so this one has a 13 megapixel camera. So definitely a little bit better camera when it comes to the selfies. This one has capacitive buttons down here, so kind of an old school Samsung thing. We got our back button, a recent apps button, and then our home button, and that is a physical home button. It is not a fingerprint sensor, so that is definitely a negative. We do not have any kind of fingerprint sensor on the back or on the front of this device. It does, however, have facial recognition, so I'm going to go ahead and test that out real quick. I did already set it up, so I'm going to go ahead and power it off, or at least turn the screen off, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. You can see right up here, it's looking for my face, and I'm going to go ahead and put it right up to my face, and you can see there. So it takes about 2 to 3 seconds, so it's definitely nowhere near as fast as what you get with any kind of fingerprint sensor. The LG Stylo 4 doesn't have the fastest fingerprint sensor, but it's certainly a whole lot faster than the facial recognition you get on this device. So a couple other things worth mentioning. We do have a headphone jack here on the bottom, so that's a thumbs up. We have micro USB for charging it, so it does come with the cable and the charger. However, I will mention there is no fast charger in the box, and this phone does not fast charge either. So that's another negative compared to the Stylo 4. So that one had Type-C, and it also has fast charging capabilities as well. So there's a microphone down there on the bottom. We have our volume rocker over here on the side. Here is our SIM tray, and it does also double as a slot for your micro SD card if you want to expand the storage. So this one has 32 gigs of onboard storage and 2 gigs of RAM, so the same thing you get with the Stylo. And we have a 13 megapixel camera here on the rear, same as what you get with the Stylo 4. And then also our flash up here on the top. We basically just have a microphone, and I think that's about it. Power button over here. Oh, and the speaker on the side. So I actually think I prefer the speaker on the side versus down here on the bottom, what you get with the Stylo device. So just a personal preference there. Alright, so the next area I want to talk about is the performance and the software on the J7 Star. So you can see here that we have a single core score on the Geekbench 4 score of 736 and a multi-core score of 3562. So again, this has 2 gigs of RAM. Now, one thing that's unique about this device versus a lot of other devices at this price point, this actually has a Samsung Exynos processor. So it's clocked at 1.6 gigahertz. And you can see here 1.77 gigs of RAM, so compared to 2 gigs of RAM on the Stylo 4. So yeah, multi-core score of 3562. In comparison, the Stylo 4 has a Snapdragon 450 processor that's clocked at 1.8 gigahertz. So that one technically has the faster processor, and actually in the Geekbench 4 scores does score slightly better than what you get on this Samsung device. Now, I've only used the Samsung for a couple of days versus the Stylo 4 that I used for 3 or 4 weeks. And I gotta say that so far this actually does feel like it could be a little bit snappier. And maybe that's because it's only pushing out 720p in terms of the pixel density versus the 1080p on the Stylo 4. But so far, performance has been pretty good on this device. Again, it's only in the first couple of days that I've been using it, but I would say overall performance seems to be pretty decent so far. Now, in terms of the software, we are rocking Android 8.0. And what I would say about that is probably don't expect to get any kind of updates with this device. Samsung typically has not been great about updating their software on their more budget-friendly devices. So Android 8.0, Samsung Experience 9.0. So similar to what you're going to get on something like a Note 9 or even on the S9 and S9 Plus. But in my opinion, I definitely prefer Samsung Experience versus what you get on LG in terms of the skin. But it's really kind of a personal preference. If you're used to Samsung devices, obviously you know what you're going to expect on this one. Versus on the LG, of course, you're going to get a more LG experience. And I got to say that if I had to choose between the two, I prefer Samsung. All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about the battery life on the J7 Star. And again, I've only had it for a couple of days, and I've really only used it for one full day. But so far, the 3,300 milliamp hour battery you get on the J7 Star seems to be doing quite well. I'm going to go ahead and turn that facial recognition on again. And again, it takes about 2 to 3 seconds for the device to actually recognize my face. So I wouldn't rely on that, but in terms of battery life, so far my experience has been very good. Now on the LG Stylo 4, I know I keep comparing it to that. I did also get pretty good battery life, about 5 to 6 hours screen on time. So far with the 3,300 milliamp hour battery on the J7 Star, my battery life has actually been a little bit better, so closer to like 6-7 hours of screen on time. Now again, this is only like day 3 that I've had it, so I wouldn't rely completely on that yet. When I do my more full review on the J7 Star, I'll give you more details on that. But battery life so far seems to be quite good on this device. Again, it's a 3,300 milliamp hour battery, which happens to be the exact same size as what you get on the Stylo 4. Now, in terms of cameras, I already mentioned that this has a 13 megapixel camera here on the front, 13 megapixel camera on the rear. And overall, I would say, again, kind of the initial review is that with both situations, the camera on both the front and the back for me seem to be just a little bit better than what you get on the Stylo 4. But again, it's really early, so when we get to the more full review of the J7 Star, I'll give you a little bit more rundown on the cameras and give you some sample video and photo. But for now, just know that the 13 megapixel camera on the front without a doubt beats the Stylo 4. The rear camera is kind of a toss-up so far. But cameras overall definitely kind of fit into that $250 price point category. Alright, so before I finish up this video, I did want to mention a couple of the things that the J7 Star does have. So it does have NFC for mobile payments, so if that's something you're looking for in a mid-range device or budget-friendly device, it does have that. It does also support band 66 and 71 for T-Mobile, so for those of you that live in more rural areas and you're looking for an update phone that gets you better signal, you'll definitely want to pick up the J7 Star. However, I do want to mention also that the LG Stylo 4 does feature both of those things as well. It does have NFC, it does also have band 66, so that's not something that separates the J7 Star from that device. So in the end, this is just kind of an initial thought. If you are choosing between this phone and the LG Stylo 4, I think without a doubt, for me, there is no question which one is the better device, and it's the LG Stylo 4. So who is the J7 Star for? Well, it's honestly, for me, it's for Samsung loyalists. That is really the only reason I see worth picking this phone up over the LG Stylo 4, at least at its current price, because they're both $250. For me personally, I don't see a reason why the J7 Star, why anyone would pick it up over the LG Stylo 4, unless of course you're just so used to Samsung devices that that's what you want. Then I would say go ahead and pick this up, because to be honest with you, I think that there's a lot of basically unlocked phones that I think perform and do a lot better than what this phone does at that $250 price point. But if you're looking for something that's specifically with T-Mobile, that has NFC, that supports the bands, all the bands of T-Mobile, then I would say probably your better buy, at least in my initial impressions, is the LG Stylo 4. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace.